Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. For those of you guys who don't know, my name is Macalyn Manning and it is Monday, which means it's time for Music and Makeup Monday. For Monday I sit down and I talk about an opera or a musical or a song style that interests me or one that you guys suggest that I do. And today we're going to be talking about Hänsel and Gretel by Humperdinck. Now, I chose this one for two reasons. The first reason, this was the first opera that I was cast in at my university. And the second reason is traditionally this opera has been performed around Christmas time. And I thought since Christmas is in 4 days, what better time than to talk about it? If you guys are interested in the products that I use, I list everything in the description box below. Hänsel and Gretel by Humperdinck is an opera in 3 acts. It's of course based off of the Brothers Grimm fairy tale. The time that the opera is set in originally is once upon a time. The original setting and the setting most commonly used is in Germany. First performance that was done of this opera was in Germany on December 23rd, 1893. A little fun fact about Humperdinck: he was an apprentice assistant for Wagner, another composer of the time, and he took on a lot of Wagner's orchestration styles, which is very heavy orchestration, very elaborate harmonic lines. So now, let's talk about voice parts and the characters. You have Peter, who is a broom maker, and he is a baritone. Then you have Gertrude, which is his wife, and she is a mezzo-soprano. We of course have their children and the main characters of this opera, Hänsel and Gretel. And Hänsel is a mezzo-soprano and Gretel is a soprano. We have the witch, you have the Sandman, who is a soprano, and then the Dew Fairy, and that is a mezzo-soprano. And you have the part that I played, which is the role of the chorus. So in this show it's the gingerbread chorus and the angels. Enough about that stuff. Let's get into the meat, the story of Hänsel and Gretel. So think Germany, think woods, think fantasy and fairy tale and all the yummy stuff. So the show opens onto the cottage of Peter and Gertrude and Hänsel and Gretel. It's a poor cottage in the middle of a really, really big wood. You see Hänsel and Gretel and Peter all working on chores and working on broom making. They're not super focused. Hänsel and Gretel are kind of teasing each other, and Hansel's sneaking tastes of the dinner for that evening. They start to just break out into dance and singing, and they're just having a lot of fun, completely forgetting about their chores. They start singing the first song in the opera, Brüderchen, komm, tanz mit mir, which is translated to Little Brother Come Dance With Me. It was written by Humperdinck and his sister. When they're in the middle of this fun dance party that they're having, the mom comes home. She's not happy. She's not happy that Peter is not working on his work anymore. She's not happy that a part of her dinner is being consumed. She's not happy that the children are doing their chores. She's livid. She's like, what the heck are you guys doing? She accidentally knocks over the food from the table that they were going to have for dinner, leaving them with nothing. She tells Hansel and Gretel to go out into the forest and to pick some berries, some strawberries, so that way they can have dinner. And she kind of begs that God will allow her to be able to feed her children tonight, because they're poor, they don't have a lot of money, and there goes the dinner that she planned. Hansel and Gretel venture off, not to be seen from again. Just kidding. And she sends Peter to go get more wood to work on making broomsticks, because they need money. So he goes into town to get more wood and to sell some sticks. Then we come to Peter walking back. He's singing a little tune. He's a very happy person. He likes singing, humming a little tune. And he comes into the house. He gives Gertrude a kiss. And you discover that he's a little drunk. And she's not happy. Gertrude's like, I sent you out to work, not to go down to the pub and get drunk. He ignores her, and he's like, you know, whatever. And kind of says, okay, where's dinner? She's like, hello, did you forget what happened? I came home, I was mad that you guys weren't working. I knocked all the food over. We have nothing to eat, Peter. Hello. And he pulls out from his basket food. And she's like, what the heck? Where'd all that food come from? And Peter says, I sold every one of my brooms. It's like, I made a giant profit. I sold all my brooms. We're going to be able to eat for a month. And she's so excited. She's like, okay, let's get some champagne. Let's get the food on the table and let's eat. And Peter goes, where's Hansel and Gretel? And she kind of says, well, they're still out picking strawberries. Peter goes, okay, well, where are they? This forest is full of creatures that are bad news. Bad news. Why the heck are they not back yet? Where could they be? Peter's freaking out, and he starts telling Gertrude about a story about a witch that lives on top of the mountain in the woods, and she is around on a broomstick, and she takes children and she eats them. She bakes them into gingerbread and she eats them. So of course, upon finding this out, Gertrude is freaking out. She's like, my babies! And she and Peter take off into the woods to go and find their children. You're now in the deep, dark forest. And we come upon Hansel and Gretel roaming, looking for strawberries. And Hansel's picking the strawberries. He's eating the strawberries. And Gretel makes a flower crown. While they're doing this, they hear a little cuckoo bird. So they sing a song with the cuckoo bird about the cuckoo bird. And then they start arguing over strawberries. They start fighting. And then we discover that darkness is falling. It's starting to become dark. And they're like, oh gosh, we're not home. And it's starting to get dark. And I think we're lost. Gretel says, I think we're lost, Hansel. And he's like, no, we're totally fine. He kind of reassures her and says, we're fine. There's nothing to worry about. It's all going to be good. And then they start to see weird shapes. They start to hear noises and they see weird shapes. And they're starting to get freaked out because they're children alone in the forest. I mean, I get scared in the forest. I'm not a child, and If I was to walk into a forest and it started to get dark, get me out of that forest. Get me out real fast. They hear noise, and Hansel goes, "Who's there? Who's there?" And they hear this sort of echoed reply. Then, through the mist, we see a man appear. And he has a sack on his back. And lo and behold, it's the Sandman. And the Sandman takes sand out of his pack and he sprinkles it over Hansel and Gretel so that way they can sleep. Because it's nighttime and they're scared and alone. Well, the Sandman's there, but, you know. So he sprinkles it over them, and the children then say their prayer, and after they say their prayer, they fall into deep sleep. And while they're in this deep sleep, the angels come down to watch over them and to keep them safe while they're asleep. The curtain opens, and we're back on the children in the forest. Only now, in the background, you see the witch's house. Little gingerbread children lined along the house, and the dew man appears, sprinkles dust over the children to gently wake them up. Gretel wakes up first, and she sings a good morning song. Looks at Hansel, and she kind of tickles him and says, "Wake up, Hansel, wake up. It's morning. We survived. We did it." And then Hansel spots in the background this house, and he's like, "Oh, look at this cottage. Look at this awesome gingerbread cottage." A little hungry, so he bites off part of a gingerbread child, and Gretel goes, "I don't think that we should do this, Hansel." But Hansel talks her into it, and they're eating. They're eating the gingerbread. They're eating the candy. They're loving it. Thank goodness we found this house. A super hard time escaping. Children continue to eat, and they soon realize that they're not alone because the witch comes and grabs a hold of them. Hansel and Gretel try their best to escape. You know, they're fighting, and they're like, "Ugh." She kind of tells them, "Oh, if you guys come inside my house, I'll feed you all of this delicious candy." They manage to escape. They manage to like weasel their way out, and the witch quickly casts a spell on them, which makes them kind of paralyzed, so they kind of freeze. The witch then puts Hansel in a cage and has Gretel clean her house and set the table for supper. Hansel kind of pretends like he's asleep. He falls asleep and is trying to like fool the witch and thinks, if I fall asleep, maybe she won't eat me. Because he discovers she's not going to give us all the candy in the world and then let us go free. She's going to eat us. She starts showing them her gingerbread children and goes, "This is what's going to happen to Hansel because I'm going to eat him." And she starts to be a little reckless because, you know, she's not the brightest witch in the world. She kind of thinks that she has the children scared enough that they won't do anything. So she starts messing around on her broom and kind of playing around because she's excited. She's excited that Hansel is going to be ate by her, and she's just kind of not caring. So she wakes Hansel up. She's like, "Wake up, wake up." She pokes him with her broomstick, and she's like, "Let me see your finger, sir, so I can see how delicious you're going to be." And Hansel doesn't give her his finger. He gives her a stick, like puts a stick out, and she falls for it and goes, "Oh, you are much too skinny. We need to fatten you up." So he tries to give them some time to figure out a plan. And it works. He tells Gretel to bring him more sweets. She's like, "Bring him more sweets. We need to fatten him up." while Gretel is getting more sweets to give to her brother to fatten him up, she notices that the witch set down her magic wand that freezes them. And well, she recites like under her breath the freezing spell, and the witch turns around and goes, "What did you just say?" And Hansel and Gretel goes, "Nothing, I just don't think my brother's gonna get fat that quickly." So the witch kind of ignores Gretel and tells Gretel to go look at the stove to see if it's getting hot. And Gretel kind of pretends to not know how to use a stove and asks if the witch could help her. So the witch is kind of like, "Oh my gosh." And the witch is annoyed. Just like, children don't know how to do anything. So she goes over and starts to show Gretel. And she kind of sticks her head near the fire. And she does that. Gretel shoves her into the fire and shuts the stove door real fast and locks it. And she rushes over and goes and opens up the door and lets her brother out. And they start dancing in joy because the witch is in the fire and is going to get burned. So they start dancing and going, "Yay, we did it, we survived." And they rush out of the house. And then you hear the fire, the witch kind of explode. You hear her go, "Ah!" And she explodes. And once she explodes, her gingerbread victims, this is where I would have came in. Her gingerbread victims start coming back to life. So all of the gingerbread that's around the house starts to come back to life. Well, they transform back into children, and they kind of talk and they say, they talk to Hansel and Gretel and they ask if they can unfreeze the children because they're frozen. They're back to humans, but they're frozen. So the only thing they can do is talk. Hansel and Gretel are able to unfreeze the children, and they're so excited because these children are alive again, and Hansel and Gretel are free, and the witch is dead. Finally, after all of this is done, Peter and Gertrude show up, and Hansel and Gretel run into their arms, and they're like, "Mom, Mom, Mom, Dad, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what happened." And they tell them the story about the witch and the children and how they destroyed the witch. Here comes up with the moral that wickedness always gets punished. The end of the opera is everyone singing a prayer and just saying how grateful they are that the witch is dead and that they're all alive. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's story of Hansel and Gretel. Don't forget to hit that like button, to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. I upload twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. And leave a comment below and tell me if you guys enjoyed Hansel and Gretel as a child or if it scared you. I know personally it scared me. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!